we then want to move on to the thing that we've just teed up, which is the third pillar of all this. So taking a longer view on what skills mean, what education means. Again, this morning it's really dawned on us that the third pillar of artificial intelligence, at least what it's been called for the moment, has to also be in absolute harmony with the technical knowledge, the technical intelligence, and the human intelligence. And that we feel very strongly that that should be brought in as early as possible, because this is happening now, like right now. It's already changing the nature of our work. And interesting is also, it's a topic we shouldn't be frightened of as geologists, because geologists have been using this technology for a couple of decades, basically. It's embedded in software, and we're very technologically savvy as a profession, right? Mm-hmm. But what amazed me, was you've already plunged into this and are using actually in your life in general, and also in your EFG work. Do you want to just explain how powerful this is and where you think it's going, and then what this means for us bringing up the skills of geologists and what this might look like in 5-10 years?
Wow, that's a really interesting topic, and I'm really fascinated about all that and how that affects our everyday life, how that affects our profession, our community, our civilization, because this is so such a huge impact. So I'm not sure where to start.
Why don't you start with ChatGPT on your phone?
Yeah, sure. Just grab this. And so you mentioned that this is not new, and the AI is probably the most overused buzzword of the day. And I think there's a general frustration that we just call everything AI powered, and anything and everything. And this is a little bit excessive use of the frame. And it's true that we have been using this for many years now. And I think what the fundamental change is that we are not just going to use it to search for our pet photos in our phone library, but we are going to use it for meaningful tasks in our job, to have a better quality to provide a better quality of work, and in a shorter time frame. And this is actually meaningful tool for our jobs.
Give us a quick example from work, because I've asked you a couple of IT questions, and on occasion you come back and say, well, this is what ChatGPT says.
Yes, yeah.
And it's been really, well, it's just stunning how it responds. It's not just the information, but it's the style, and you've interrogated it, and it's come back with a meaningful answer. But it's not just a bunch of bullet points, is it? It's a crafted. It's like speaking to a mentor or that really useful colleague in the office.
Yes. So it can do very simple things like help me set up an IT security framework to make sure that my passwords are safe, my laptop is safe, my access are safe. And you could easily done that by quickly Googling that and have a couple of articles going through. So I think that's not surprising that this can do that very well. What surprised me is, for example, creating text and to create reasoning. One of my previous examples, there was a very important email I needed to draft. It was regarding membership fees, and I provided all the reasoning that why we would like to propose this solution, and I also added some criteria that this needs to be a professional letter, it needs to be polite, and it shouldn't be pushy, it should be respectful, and this is the concept. And this is the reasoning that we want to express, and this is our request. So it required a lot of background work from me that I need to present the problem clearly, but then it can help us to write a really professional communication that achieves all these criteria. And I probably could have done this if I spent maybe an additional 1 hour or 2 to craft this, but instead I spent maybe 15 minutes in putting in these instructions, and then it provided a really good output. And although we need to be sure that this is a kind of a black box that we are working with, so you're not always sure what comes out of it, and it's hallucination is still an issue. It's so when ChatGPT or other tools they have factual errors and they're saying something which is not true. This is still an issue that they're working. So we need to check the validity of the outcomes, but it provides a really good draft that will need just a few more tweaks here and there.
There's something even more astonishing you told me, which loops back to the second pillar of human intelligence. You told me that you told it about yourself and who you are, and you can continue to tell it more and more. It was like really is like a mentor or friend or colleague, and it now is shaping the responses, trying to help you, and framing the answers relative to what it knows about you. And I guess also with the questions you're asking.
Yeah.
It's just mind blowing.
Yeah, and this is relatively new, and it's fascinating the pace of development in this.
Yeah.
So how I started with this, and my first recommendation to a colleague and friend, that I told him that create a fake account that you can't be identified with that person. So just be on the safe side, but don't tell too much information about yourself and so on. And this is where I started, and I was skeptical, and it's natural to be skeptical.
Yeah.
And then it completely changed a few weeks ago when ChatGPT 4 came out, and you could provide custom instructions. And I looked into this, and you can tell it about yourself, on who are you, what you do, what you would like to accomplish, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and it will frame its answers to meet your needs. So then you have a huge motivation to give some information about yourself. So what do you really need? Because the quality of the outcome will be much better. And for example, I added that these are, for example, I would like to better manage my time, for example, at my work, and I'm working at EFG as a project manager and so on. And when I asked in a different topic later on that I heard about this productivity method called time blocking, and could you explain about this? And it provided an explanation of what time blocking is, which is fine. I mean, I could have Googled that, but it also told me that Tamás is a project officer at EFG. You could use time blocking, for example, to separate 1 or 2 hours a day for your emails, and then you will not be distracted so much during the day from your emails. And as a project manager, this is how you can use time blocking. So it's and this is much more useful. That okay, I know that this is exactly how I can use this. And it's amazing.
I'm looking at this book here because you also earlier on just randomly picked this up. You took a picture of it. And then you asked ChatGPT to tell you about it. Now, we can perhaps, put in the recording afterwards, but what again is astonishing is the quality and the nature of the response, which is certainly not a robotic voice. It's a very coherent, normal sounding voice. Even with ums and ahs like we would have, pretty deliberately apparently. But it's basically a narrative, a logically paced narrative that's pulled from reviews and opinions, and it sort of makes a kind of centroid, doesn't it, of clusters around the kind of hub of knowledge that is generally agreed. It's a kind of crowdsourcing almost, isn't it, of what the opinion is on this book. Which is ironically about how to communicate with people. But so you've got these revolutions we've gone through, right? To have got to paper. I mean, this is a sort of 17th century artifact, isn't it? Now a book. Now we all love books, and we may want to read every word of it and note it up, and or the rest of it, but at the end of the day, we read a book to extract a body of knowledge, right? It could be one nugget, it could be, a room full of an endless exploration of knowledge. But this is really making us think very differently, isn't it, about how we extract things, because we've moved from the book to the internet, which is sort of flat text. And now 10, 15, 20 years later, we're now into the possibility of an AI, let's put it that way. It's not even attached to a screen necessarily. We could get to the point where we walk in this room and it's going to tell us stuff based on who we are walking into the room. So we are entering this revolutionary period. What does this mean then for the development of skills? And I guess I think where we can get to on this is there's, in the immediate term, we've got a need for skills in this. So we are certainly now thinking very strongly that these sorts of courses should be very prominent in our academy as soon as possible, right? But also, if we have some open thinking about this has relevance as well for the nature of how we consume knowledge, right? In itself.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to give a thought on that for a minute or two.
Well, I think in terms of the short term, the immediate response from the EFG Academy is that we want to have these courses available as soon as possible. Because when we're setting up the academy, we would like to provide future-proof skills that geologists can future-proof themselves, and they will not be obsolete by introduction of a large language model, which can do some of these things excellent and very well. But, and one of these skills now is the ability to use these AI tools, and that might be ChatGPT, that might be Google Bard, or Gemini Ultra, or Bing, or any of these of AI tools, which are not really artificial intelligence. These are narrow AIs that are good at specific tasks. And these are not always self-explanatory how to use this and how people can use it in their work. And when they start using it, you can save a lot of time by delegating some tasks to these tools. And then the quality of your work is going to improve. You could do things in a shorter time frame. And overall, your contribution will be a higher value that without these. So I think it's very important to have these skills develop very quickly, and then prepare for this disruption, because these tools are going to disrupt many fields, many professions, and it will definitely disrupt the educational system that we have at the moment. So even from primary school, high school, even in university, the traditional education will be completely disrupted, and we need to be prepared for this, and we need to be proactive in this process to make sure that we are not going to be obsolete. But even if our skills will be obsolete, we will have the time to, or we will have a second chance to upskill. But it will be better to be proactive. And,
I guess we're lucky in a way that a lot of the problems we're trying to solve as geologists are really hard. And the fact that we've got so much uncertainty, with these huge data sets. I mean, I was telling you earlier on how when I came into the market, if you like, the jobs market, and I got my first job as a geophysicist, we would have to wait for the software to process. Even just doing things like stratigraphic correlations. You sit there and it was perfectly legitimate to put out a book, or you waited because it could take 10 minutes. I mean, no one would tolerate that anymore. And now, as we were saying, you could have 3 or 4 people in there working on that same data set, the same interpretation, giving their different, literally, their own sense of what's going on, and they might not even be on the same continent. This is all perfectly normal now. And the fact as well that, the generation coming in, it fails fast. They're very happy with trying and testing, and if it doesn't work, we'll just try it again. Because of the speed of the software, which AI plays a part, obviously, in machine learning. But we should be not feel so threatened, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we should have an optimism around this. But these are, I guess, a great point to end on here is that, you know, we've talked about the basis of technical skills, which you're going to need upgrading, adapting, because of obviously this revolution occurring in terms of how we, you know, resource ourselves. We would always need these human skills, right? Because we're always dealing with people, whether you know, through the medium of technology or not. But these skills that are going to be required for the new technology of which AI is just a part, right? Who knows what's around the corner next? These are very generic, and it seems that you know, if we have 3 pillars, one is going to be very specific in terms of the technical, right? Even if they're transitional, but the human skills you're going to be able to carry everywhere, you know, no matter where you work. And it seems like it's the same for this latest set of technology, right? You know, we should be offering courses where we've got people coming in from everywhere, and they're very portable. Very important.
And on that topic, I just remember that we talked about teamwork. This is like to be a good team player, it's also a skill, and in the human intelligence part. And maybe the third one is about being a good team player with an AI assistant. So you're working with it, you're providing, there's conversation, dialogue, and you present the problem, and it helps you to find a solution. And it might be the third pillar is all about being a good team player with any of these tools, because the two of you are going to be extremely, well, maybe not extremely better than without it, but going to be hugely more productive and efficient in solving these complex challenges that, for example, geologists are facing. And this third pillar can help you getting better in both the other pillars, and it help you guide. And it's like, and every year there's a new model is released, and now it may be like if you are working with maybe an expert on this field, but maybe next year you are going to be working with an expert of 5 people in different fields, and maybe in 3 years you're going to be working with an expert of 1,000 people. And then whatever you're doing, you're going to be better at that, even at starting a business or working at the geological problem. Having this companion or team player with you at all times, always ready.
That new colleague, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. And the term being used is for a collective intelligence with these 3 pillars, which would be a wonderful thing to embrace, wouldn't it? Well, thanks a lot. It's an amazing chat, and I hope it's been useful for some other people too.
Yeah, me too.